Good morning, good morning, good morning. That's Midweek Motivation Live with Patrick Lee, your host, back this week after a week off last week. Spent a week out in Oregon doing some work with my brother for my mother, and had a great week out there. Very busy, action-packed week. Work. Very little time to for R&R, rest and relaxation, as a lot of people like to do on the Oregon coast when they're there. It's a great place to visit and a lot of sights to see. But this was a week of hard labor, a week of work. I'm glad to be back here in the saddle at Midweek Motivation Live and want to talk to you about some experiences this week, some of the things I've been studying, some of the things I've been hearing from some of the other speakers in my life, and some of the experiences that I've had. We're going to be talking about emotions today and communication with other people. People already tuning in. Hello, Sal. Hello, Deanne. Good to see you all on here. People already coming in and commenting here at Midweek Motivation Live. One of the things I want to talk about today, our main topic is going to be communication and emotion in communication. Are you an emotional communicator, and how so? Some of you can comment on here. Maybe you are an emotional communicator. Maybe you just and those emotions can be happy emotions, excited emotions, sad emotions. Many people use different emotions to speak. Some of you can comment on here as to how this maybe this works in your life. I am learning a lot about the use of emotion in communication. Many of you, I like to consider myself a fairly good communicator. You know, this is kind of what I do for a living in the real estate world and with the people that I speak into their lives. And I have mentors and coaches in my life. I'd like to think that I'm a pretty good communicator, but, you know, maybe I'm not. I really don't need every one of you to get on here and comment and say, Patrick, you're a horrible communicator. You wouldn't come back every week if you did. So anyway, but I do want to talk about that this week, emotion in communication. Are you an emotional communicator, and how so? You can comment on that. I went out to Oregon this week to work on the house for my mother. Many of you know that my father passed away earlier this year in January, and asbestosis in his lungs, which metastasized to many other areas in his body. And he passed away end of January of this year. And many of you have lost loved ones during the coronavirus pandemic that we still claim to be in. For other reasons, one of my teammates lost a very close friend just this morning in the middle of the night, and is dealing with that right now and consoling that friend. And my prayers go out to her today, and many of you may have as well. Good morning, Ross. It's good to see you on here. I know Ross can relate. Ross is going through some of these things and has experienced some of them with his family. And one of my people I listen to a lot, Ed Milet. If none of you have ever listened to Ed Milet, M-Y-L-E-T-T, Ed Milet on Midweek Motivation, has been brought up many times. He's one of the people that speaks into my life. I watch him a lot. And his show called Max Out on YouTube. It's a great podcast and a great video. So he's one of the people I look up to. Ed recently lost his father. Many of you have lost fathers or mothers, and you sometimes battle emotion. You have a hard time getting a control of your emotions. I like to think that I'm a pretty stable guy. But there are times that emotion shows up in my speech as well. But one of the positive things about emotion I want to talk about that I've learned in the past and have shared with some of you in the past is that emotion creates motion, and vice versa. What does that mean? Emotion creates motion and vice versa. Sometimes when you're speaking, it's not until someone hears the emotion in your voice that it actually causes them to do the action required or the action suggested in the speech. Correct? Does that make sense to you? It's not until when you are telling your child to clean their room for the 27th time that they hear the emotion in your voice, that they know you're serious. Sometimes you're in a conversation with somebody and they're not understanding you, and it's not until a tear wells up in the corner of your eye that they understand you're serious and how much this topic means to you. Well, one of the things that happened to me this week, we are working at my mom's house. We're remodeling the main bathroom in the house has a stand-up shower in the corner, and we want to put in a large walk-in shower with handrails and all of those things to make it safer for my mother in a 100-year-old 2-story farmhouse out in the country, pier and beam foundation. So there's about 12, 13 inches of space underneath it, and we have found that the plumbing under the house is basically shot. Some of the plumbing had been updated by my brother in the past. Many of you don't know that I'm pretty much a jack of all trades, maybe a master of none, but I'm working on being a master of a few, as is my brother. And we learned that from my father. My father ran the emergency medical services for my hometown my entire youth. He got that job as he left the Navy. He was a hospital man in the Navy, and he went to work for our local hospital the year he was born, and retired from that job nearly 38 years later, while working multiple other jobs on the side to make ends meet for 5 screaming hungry kids that were sometimes unruly, as did my mom. So good morning, Pete. Good to see you on here. Also, many people tuning in this morning. Like and love. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to my channel below the video. Like and love. Send me some hearts. You can do thumbs up also on YouTube. On Facebook, it's likes and love. Send me some hearts. All of those things help the show move up in the rankings, and more people can watch, and we'll influence more people that way. And that is my goal, is to help influence more people. Any success in life that can be attributed to me, I love that. That's the banner on my show right here, motivating you to success in every area of life. One of the things we're talking about today is emotion. Well, we're working on this house. My dad had taught all of us to do everything ourselves because we valued a penny, and we could stretch a penny or a nickel until it was 2 feet long. That's just what you do. You do things yourself. You put your hands in it and on it, and you take care of things. You don't always have to call an electrician or a plumber or someone to build you a fence or someone to roof your house. It's called The Country Boy Can Survive, and you just learn by hard work and knowledge from the mentors, the people above you, teaching you how to be a man, how to do the things that they do. Women do that with their daughters in the day. It used to be that the daughters always learned to cook, sew, clean from the mother, and the boys learned how to cut firewood and build fences and work on the plumbing from their dad. And now some of those roles have changed with the onset of the 2-parent working families, and I understand that. And there are many things that women can do as well as men, and many things men can do as well as women, except birth babies. So we don't pride ourselves on being able to do that. Thank you, Jesus. I've heard it said, my mom actually told me earlier this last week that she had heard it said, if men delivered babies, we would be in a world of 1-child families. It would be one and done. I'm out. But women have babies, and it's very painful. And then within a couple of months, they're like, oh, I miss that feeling. Let's go do it again. I feel that way sort of about plumbing. Like, this is very painful. But then when the job is done, we're like, oh, that wasn't that hard. Let's go do it again. So after multiple years of really not doing much plumbing, my brother and I took on this job of moving this or remodeling this bathroom. And I've been selling real estate for 7 years, right? 7 years. And I flipped a couple of houses. I do a lot of things by hand. I do a lot of work on my own home. I used to remodel homes, and I like to think that I'm pretty handy. My brother is also a remodeler and does construction for a living and has done a lot of plumbing. Love that jacket. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. This is my new Patrick Lee jacket, Patrick Lee Group, and the hats. I've got more hats coming in. This was my first test hat I've been telling y'all about. So I've got more in transit right now. So we're going to be having some swag to give out here on the show, and that's pretty cool. But I found that during this job working on my mom's house, my brother was doing a lot of the plumbing. The copper pipes under the house were just shot. They were just shot. They needed to be updated, and everything that we would repair or tie into, somewhere up the line, it would start leaking again. The sewer line was bad. The water lines were bad. The hot water line was bad. The line to the water heater was bad. And after all of this work had been done and everything was tore out and we start putting it back together, it just becomes apparent that this plumbing is shot. My brother and I ended up basically replumbing my mom's entire house, other than one other small bathroom on the other side of the home that was recently added that was newer. But new trunk line, new water lines, new clean outs, new vents for the plumbing. We replumbed the house and roughed in everything to put it back together. And my brother's out there now putting it back together. I spent nearly a week out there, and I had to get back to work and get back to you. A lot of things going on. It was a fast, emotional trip. And that's what we're talking about today. Emotion creates motion, and vice versa. Vice versa, what does that mean? That means in the reverse. There are many times that motion creates emotion, movement, speed of progress, and different things can cause people to become emotional about that process as well. So when was the last time, we're going to move on to the next topic, when was the time you actually cried in a conversation? Oh no, I just lost all of the tough guys, right? When was the last time you cried in a conversation? It's easy to have a conversation that's fast, right? Fast, exciting. We can talk, we can be motivated. But I have a lot of friends that speak this way, as do I, because of business, the nature, the speed of the game, right? The difference between amateurs and professionals in any line of work is the speed of the game, whether it's an athlete or it's a business person, it's the speed of the game. But there are many times when we're communicating with others that we have to slow down and we have to let the emotion become articulated. Emotions unarticulated are emotions unappreciated. What does that mean, Patrick? I'm glad you asked. If you don't ever let people know how you feel, they won't get the importance out of the conversation about what you're trying to say. I was watching, I'm just going to be very, very, very clear and raw with you guys this week. Monday morning, I decided to take the morning off. I didn't get into town until late Sunday night. In and blue. Good morning, Gary. Good to see you. Too long since we've seen each other. Good to see you on here. You need to come to Amarillo. We need to visit. But I got in late Sunday, and after work, being out there all week. So Monday morning, it had snowed. I'm going to sit in front of the fireplace, drink some coffee. I'm going to get control of my thoughts, start planning my week and the rest of my day. Started watching some reruns on, I think, the Discovery Channel, or some new shows, episodes of American Chopper. Raise your hand if any of you, or give me some likes and loves if you've ever watched American Chopper. Paul Tuttle Sr. and Paul Tuttle Jr. Almost 15 years ago, over 11 years ago at least, they started this show called American Chopper, and they started a business building custom motorcycles together. And they were the people that basically started the theme bike phenomenon that swept the country. Many different motorcycle manufacturers sprung up, like Big Dog Cycles and other companies like that, based on this TV show. The TV show was famous because Paul Sr. and Paul Jr. had this violent relationship with each other, a love-hate relationship of power. The struggle between the two of them for creative control and the business control and the expense of what they were doing. But they created this motorcycle together. The very first show, the very first one, was called the Spider Bike. And it was a big chopper that looked like Spider-Man. It looked just like the original blue and red Spider-Man costume with the spider webs on it and the blue leather seat. And that bike started this phenomenon of theme bikes. And they went on to create the Black Widow bike, the fire bike for the tribute to 9/11, all of the firefighters that lost their lives. They created a Santa Claus bike that they took and would go to children's hospitals on the Santa Claus, this motorcycle that looked like Santa Claus's sleigh, with reindeer antlers and all of these things on it. And many other people, famous companies from all over the country and the world started commissioning them to build a bike for their business as well. So this show eventually went off the air. Paul Jr. left the company. The relationship with his father had broken down to the point to where they could not communicate, period, without fighting. Chairs were thrown through walls and windows, fists were thrown, and they ended up suing each other and were locked in a long legal battle. This was father and son. Now, my father and I never went to these extremes. I know people, I have clients and friends here in town that have gone to those extremes, sons that have sued their fathers, fathers that have sued their sons over real estate deals and other family matters. But my relationship with my dad was never one like that. I loved my dad. I moved to Texas when I was 20, and I've lived here ever since. It's been over 37 years in Texas. I've always loved my dad. My dad was a man of fewer words than many people, especially me. I always knew my dad loved me, and I always loved my dad. But I've lived here for so long, we didn't get to spend the quality time developing our relationship that I felt that we should have. Too many times we didn't have the money, the finances, or the time to get away from work to visit my dad. And then sadly, this cancer came on pretty quickly, and he had decided that he would go ahead and try to fight it. It didn't take too long, and it took him out. And I was able to go out there in January and visit with him and pray with him before he passed. But shortly after I got home, he passed, and we went back and for the funeral and took care of that. And we've been making many trips back and forth since then to help take care of my mom and a lot of her affairs. And I didn't realize until I was watching this show. I went out and I visited with my mom. We didn't get to speak as much as we should have, but she would say things to me, and I would say, yeah, Mom. But it wasn't until her voice broke and the emotion came out that I understood how important what she was saying was to me. My wife has lost her mother and her stepdad and other people in her life. And when we talk about those subjects, the tremble will show up. The tear will show up in the corner of your eye, and your lip will tremble, your voice will break. And those points of communication are critical for you as a speaker and a listener, an active listener, for you to understand that emotion. If you don't pay attention to this, emotions unarticulated are emotions unappreciated. If you don't tell people how you are feeling and what you are experiencing inside, they're not going to understand the level of importance that is in the conversation, in the business deal, in the relationship. Okay? Emotions unarticulated are emotions unappreciated. People can't see the value in what you're trying to say, the depth of what it is that you're trying to say, if there's a lack of emotion. And people tell me a lot in business when I'm at closings numerous times and on the phone, my clients will say, Patrick, the thing we love about you is that your voice never changes. You keep it on an even keel, and you're always results oriented. You're just level. And I love that. My dad was level. I speak louder, a little faster than my dad, but my dad was always level. You want to know some of the funny things that I have found about my dad? When I was a kid, my dad wore Old Spice, High Karate, and Bay Rum cologne. My dad had black hair. It was always slicked back towards one side, a little longer than it should be. Through the years, I have had the same penchant for wearing my hair like my dad. My Aunt Virginia will say, you look like your dad's younger twin. Many people have said that. And I do appreciate that. But you know what? Recently, I've started getting my hair done at the barber, Zeus, the barber shop. Danny, my friend, cuts my hair. I need to get, that's why I have a hat on again today, more PLG swag, but I need to go get a haircut, get my ears lowered a bit. But I have found now that through getting my haircut at the barber shop, that I recognize the smell of the cologne and the hair oil that my barber would put on me. And I said, what is that you're putting on me? He said, it's Clubman. And I've been talking with my good friend, Pastor David Brown, great friend and mentor in my life. And we had talked about it recently. I look to him almost like a friend and a father figure. And he was like, man, you can go to Drug Emporium and get that Clubman. Man, it smells like a man. Nothing makes you smell like a man. I said, that and Bay Rum. My dad the best memories I have of my dad wearing, Bay rum. And a lot of you guys, young guys, don't even know what Bay rum is. You're like, I have to wear Polo by Ralph Lauren or Obsession by Calvin Klein or Quorum by whoever it is. You want to wear these fancy colognes that cost you $90. But the real men wore things like Bay rum and Clubman and Old Spice. You know what I'm talking about? Aqua Velva. These were man colognes, right? So I'm like, I recognize that smell. It's Clubman. And David had been telling me, you got to go to get you some Clubman. And I went to Drug Emporium, and right next to the Clubman, the same company makes Bay rum. And I opened up a bottle of Bay rum, and all these emotions hit me. And it's like, man. Wow. That's surprising. Anyway, that's my dad. So I'm watching. Wow. I didn't expect this. I don't know how I can do this. So I'm watching American. Now, Paul Sr. Gets a call. Someone is selling a private sale of the Spider bike, the Spider-Man bike. First bike they ever built together, him and Paul Jr. It's at auction, and before he can sell it, they have tipped this bike over, and the bike has a big dent in the gas tank. Wow. Has a dent in the gas tank, so they ask him if he can fix the dent and restore the bike just like it was when they built it on the show. But they get the bike in there, and they're going to fix it, and he calls Paul Jr. over, and they've been working on having a relationship, working on an old car together and trying to do some things together. And the lawsuit was years ago. They still have separate businesses. Paul Jr. has Paul Jr. Designs. Paul Sr. still has American Chopper and has other people that work for him, and they still do theme bikes. And Paul does creations and theme bikes. And he calls him over and says, hey, I want to show you something. And he gets over there and tells him the story of the Spider bike. You know what I mean? And it brings back all these emotions of when they started the show, right? When they started the show. And this bike was the first bike that they had ever built together. And he tells him the story of the bike was going to be sold at auction. And Paul Sr. decided to buy the bike. He said it'd be great to have it back in the shop. This is the first bike we built together. And I just want it. So he just went ahead and bought it back from the guy and didn't allow him to sell it to anybody else. And they started reminiscing about these memories. And Paul Sr. turns to Paul Jr. out of the blue, this big, gruff biker guy, and just says, you know what, man? I want you to have that bike. So I bought it back for you. And out of the blue, all these emotions just came out of me sitting in front of my fireplace, watching TV, drinking coffee. And I was overcome with emotion, and to the point that I didn't understand what I was feeling. And it dawned on me that through all of these years, the lack of communication or emotion between me and my dad was causing me to have these missed feelings or missed relationship with my own dad. And I was sitting there alone in my house, openly weeping and not knowing what was going on. And it was because of the lack of articulation of emotion. If you want to be a big, tough guy and never tell people how you feel, that's fine. But emotion unarticulated is emotion unappreciated. It's going to be hard for you to be a leader if no one ever knows how you feel. Leadership can be found in the expression of emotion that compels people to align themselves with that goal, the goal that you have as a leader. As a business owner, some of you, Cody, you own a pizza place. If people never know what the goal is of the pizza place, Ross, if people never understand what the end product is that you're trying to put together with your hands, many of you that are watching right now, whatever your business is, whatever your goals are, if you're trying to get people to align with you, but you never articulate the dream, the emotion behind what it is you're trying to say, how are they going to align with you if they don't know, if they don't feel the emotion? John, we talked a week before last about courage. John Wayne said, do it afraid. Maybe some of the things that you stand up and say, you need to stand up and say with a tremble in your lip or a tear in the corner of your eye, because people understand you better. They know that you're passionate about what you're talking about. You have dreams, goals, things that you want to see happen, and you want to align yourself with good people. But if you never let them know, how are they going to know? You know what I mean? Courage begins at the end of your comfort zone. When are you going to get out of your comfort zone and let people know how you feel? I'm having to do it. I think that you need to do it too. I think you need to do it too. If you'll let people know how you feel, you'll become a better communicator. You'll be a better communicator. And you'll see success happen in this area of your life, your emotions and your communication. And that's the word for you this week. I want you to go on and have a great week. I want you to get over this Wednesday hump, and I want you to live a great, happy life. I want you to learn how to be in control of your emotions and in touch with your emotions, and learn how to use that to be a better communicator. Let people know around you how important they are, how your goals are important, how the business model that you have, why you have it, why it's important, the things that you're trying to achieve in your personal business, your pyramid business, your sales business, whatever it is, if you don't articulate the emotion behind that with that emotion, people just can't appreciate it. They don't understand it. Hey man, at the end of this video, I know this is kind of an emotional moment. We're winding down. But, you know, my business is selling real estate. I do this every week to help you. At the end of the day, I help people buy and sell homes and invest in real estate. In the comments beneath this video, I'll have my link in there, www.patricklee.work. You can click on that link at any time and get a hold of me. You can get scheduled in my calendar for a time to talk. If you would like to talk about business, that's great. If you just want to talk about other things, schedule a time and get in my calendar, and I'd love to talk to you. Maybe we can talk about some things that you're going through in your life, and I would love to help you with that as well. At the end of the day, I do to pay the bills and feed the kids. I do and pay the rent on my office. I do help people buy and sell homes, and I would love to help you and your friends and family as well. Click on the link below and in the comments below this video. You can always reach me at 806-570-7712. I am Patrick Lee with the Patrick Lee Real Estate Group. This has been Midweek Motivation Live. I love you guys. I'll talk to you again next week if I don't see you sooner. Bye-bye.